Hello my fellow book addicts, Megan here, and time for another book review. Today, I'm going to be talking about The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. So, I was so excited to be able to get this book from the bookstore. I've been looking forward to this book since I heard about it, like early 2014, and I was not disappointed. This book was everything I could have wanted in a Holly Black book. Personally, I can't really put my finger on just what I love most about Holly Black's writing. I just can't. It's hard for me to describe. Just there's something about it that just makes me so happy to read, and I love it. So I felt the same way reading Tithe, Valiant, Ironside, The Coldest Girl in Cold Town. Just everything I've read by Holly Black has just made me so excited to read, and I loved every page of it. This book has reminded me why Holly Black is one of my must-buy authors. This book takes place in this little town called Fairfold, and it is by this really deep forest, and this town's pretty interesting. They have this kind of relationship with the fairies that live in the forest. Now, these fairies, they tend to leave the townspeople alone. They don't bother them. They usually stay out of each other's way. And the odd chance that something does happen to a local, the townspeople kind of chalk it up to they must have been acting like tourists. Because this town has a nice little tourist attraction. They have this very attractive horned boy who is fast asleep in this glass casket in the woods. And this boy has been there as long as anyone in the town can remember. It has been decades, if not longer, he has been there. And, pretty popular tourist attraction. And nothing anyone can do seems to be able to wake this boy up. Things I like about this book, it makes living with fairies seem so normal. Which, for these people, it is. It's an everyday occurrence for them. A lot of them grew up with the knowledge that there were fae all around them. So therefore, they grew up with the knowledge of all the little tricks of the trade to keep themselves safe from the fae. Little things that would be outrageous to you anywhere else, like oatmeal in your pockets, wearing your socks inside out, little talismans, little things to keep the fae out of the house. All this stuff is completely and utterly normal for them. Hell, for the younger generation, a lot of them grew up as having a changeling in their classes. So, before I get too much into that, the main characters in this book are mostly Ben and Hazel, who are brother and sister. Ben has the privilege, or I guess you could even say misfortune, of being blessed by one of the fae. He is blessed with music. He can make music so beautiful or so sad that people around him actually physically react to it. Which, sounds pretty cool. You can make people feel happy listening to your music. And it's so powerful, it even can put some of the fae in this trance. But it's pretty powerful, and he doesn't have complete control over it, which kind of scares him. And Hazel is the normal of the two of them. She is not blessed creatively. And they have lots of friends in this town, one of which being Jack, who is the changeling. And in this town, there is something that is even more scary than the fae. There is this monster deep into the woods called Sorrow, and oh my god, Sorrow. But I'm not going to go into much detail about Sorrow because spoilers. So there have been some weird happenings in town. Hazel's been finding someone leaving all these strange messages for her. Then one morning she wakes up and she's covered with mud. And she has these glass shards all over her hands. And she has no idea what happened. All she remembers is going to sleep the night before and then waking up as she was. And then news starts spreading around the town that the horned boy in the casket, someone smashed the casket, and the boy is not in the coffin anymore. So someone either stole his body, or he's finally awake after decades of sleep. And let's just say things after that really, really go crazy. That's all I can say without giving spoilers, but this book was amazing. If any of you have read and liked any of Holly Black's other writing, you need to pick this book up because it's awesome. It is just as fabulous as all of her other works, and highly recommend it. I love the story, I love the plot, I love just the images I got while I was reading this book, and I just adored how everything was tied up as the book went on. Everything was tied up, no loose ends, and I loved it. So, without much ado, I am going to go into my most spoilery bit, so if you do not want to be spoiled, I suggest you click away now. So, as the book progresses, we do find out that Hazel isn't quite as normal as she lets on. Now, you see, her and Ben used to go hunting for evil fae when they were younger. Ben would, put the fae into a trance with his awesome music skills, and Hazel would basically kill him with this amazing sword she found when they were younger. And things went like this for a while. They, I think, killed like 3 or 4 fae. And then one day, after a little accident, Ben realizes just how dangerous the little game they were playing was. And he wanted to call it quits for hunting. And Hazel, of course, knows she can't really do this on her own, and she didn't want to stop. She liked playing knight. This was like what she wanted, to be a knight in shining armor, saving the town. And she can't do it without Ben. And, it's not as much fun playing hero on your own. But Ben wanted to wait until he had more control over his power of music. So Hazel, to kind of speed that along, did something that no sane townsperson, or no sane person in general, should do. She made a deal with the Fae. She contacted the Alder King, who is like the big honcho in the forest, and she made a deal that her brother would be able to learn to control his powers in exchange for 7 years of her life. She thought she was being clever. She originally thought that these 7 years would be shaved off at the end of her life. She'd die 7 years earlier than was expected of her. But, later she realizes that that wasn't specified, and they could really come at any point to come claim those 7 years. So she has that kind of hanging over her head for years. They got her their end in the bargain. Ben managed to get this scholarship for this really awesome school in, I believe it was Philadelphia. Though, after 2 years, he really grows to not like his little gift, and he smashes his hand, breaking it, and he doesn't, exercise it and rehabilitate it like he should, so he's never going to really be able to play music like he did again. And he's perfectly happy about that. And of course, he doesn't know about this, not so thought out deal that Hazel made. So, I found it really interesting how, this whole deal was played out. So basically, the Alder King is claiming those 7 years in an interesting way. From the time Hazel falls asleep at night, from when her head hits the pillow at night, from when it hits the pillow again at dawn, he is hers. He is basically hers to do what he wants, and he actually teaches her to be a knight. So that's interesting. Because of this, her, waking day self and her night self are, 2 separate entities. The night self knows of the day self, but the night self cannot let the day Hazel self know about it. So Hazel is completely in the dark, no pun intended, about what she's doing at night. So it is the night Hazel who's leaving all these little cryptic notes for her day self, trying to hint at her what's going on. Because the night self can't let the day Hazel know about her, so she has to be really subtle and tricky and clever, because, if you want to survive these fairy-like deals, you gotta be really clever with figuring things out. So, I thought that was a really, really nice little turn. And we see a lot of the Horn Boy, whose name is, I'm gonna butcher it, Severin. And, surprise, surprise, he's the Alder King's son, and oh my god, his whole backstory and story arc, I loved. And I also like how Ben and Severin ended up as a couple instead of Hazel and Severin. And I really enjoyed the story. I really did. I thought all the characters were awesome and amusing to read about. And it was just a really entertaining read. And like all Holly Black's other works, It did not disappoint me in the slightest. It was awesome, and I just love Holly Black's writing. So, it's really all I can say. I could sing praises for this book all day and night, but I think you guys get the point by now. I'm a huge Holly Black fangirl, and I will honestly love anything that she writes. So yeah, with that, I'm going to stop myself here, and yeah, that will be it for this book review, and I hope to see you guys next time. Keep on reading, my fellow book addicts. Keep on reading.